Well, how are you doing, Dad?
Doing fine. It's been a fantastic vacation.
Yeah. So I thought it would be fun here as we're on our last morning. We're getting ready to head back to Chicago, and we're here at Lake Geneva, Dad's birthplace. That it'd be fun just to reflect on the last week and just kind of share some of the memories you have. So let's go back to the. Well, before I forget about it, here we're sitting here at this gazebo park. I'm not sure what it's called, but right off to my left is the inlet. And Dad, what are your memories of that little inlet?
Well, that's where I used to fish. That's the slips where they keep the low slung boats and keep it out of the main body of water for wind and stuff.
Right. But you used to fish over there.
Oh, they used to fish here in between the boats.
Okay.
Little old perch,
Yep.
little old bluegills. Some fish, well, anything is fun.
Sure, sure.
You
So-
don't need to eat them, but just catch them and throw them back and have fun.
Sure. Let's go back then. So we've been talking about this trip for a few months. So how would you summarize it? How's it been for you?
Well, it's been fantastic. I mean, been thinking about these things for years, and they never materialized. And then all of a sudden, we had an opportunity. Stephen said, "Let's go," and here we are. It's been a blast. Everything we've done is just first class, outstanding. Airplanes, the race cars, the art, and then a trip around the lake and visiting where I grew up, what fields I played in, and what homes I lived in, and it's just unbelievable.
So a good
Bless
summary,
you.
but
Bless
you can't steal my thunder, Dad. I want to take a part each day, just for a minute. So let's go back to the beginning. You left Tulsa, met you in St. Louis. You and I flew on to Illinois, and then we drove on down to Indianapolis. So let's just reflect for a moment on the Indy 500 Museum, just kind of what stood out for you about what we saw.
Well, I've been listening to Indianapolis for years and years. Here we saw a car from Tulsa, zinc, one in 55 and 56, and one of them is on display. Of course,
So-
it's pink, it's different, it's Tulsa.
So John Zink, well, I'm not sure exactly what he did, but he's an industrialist.
Furnace man.
Furnace man,
John
okay.
Zink furnace.
So
That
he's-
was in our house when we bought it. John Zink floor
Okay,
furnace.
so he sponsored an Indy 500 race car,
For 2 years.
and that car won. Well, I bet he sponsored more than 2 years, but
No,
but that.
2 years is all he ever tried.
Oh, okay, and
And
he
he
won.
won,
He
yeah.
won one of those.
Yeah, both of them.
Both of them. Wow.
Both of them.
Wow. I wonder why you
Yeah.
quit when you're.
Well, it's like anything else, the expense, inconvenience, and maybe he just says, well, this is a blast. Quit when you're ahead, like
Check.
they always say.
That's-
Quit when you're on top. So
All right.
he won, and he said, this is it.
All right, let's move on then to day two. So after Indianapolis, we drove over to Dayton, Ohio, and we saw the U.S. Air Force Museum. So just a couple of thoughts. What are your reflections on that museum?
Well, being in the Air Force, and I've flown on some of the planes, and I've seen some of the planes in action. It's quite a interesting reminiscing of going back to the first time I've seen a jet up to the modern planes, and it's just been a blessing all my life. I've always dreamed about going here, and it's been fulfilled.
Oh, good. And by the way, just for our listeners here, we walked 5+ miles going through 4, can we call them hangars? They were bigger than hangars.
Well,
They were
monstrous hangers.
They were. Anyway, and so I tracked our mileage, and we walked over 5 miles that day. And then the next day we drove, I'm sorry, you know what I left out after Indianapolis? This is going to be out of order. We went to the Ark.
Right.
Okay, so some of your reflections on the Ark.
Unbelievable. When you get logs this big, about 80 feet long, how can Noah put them in place? But God made arrangements, and it's 500 feet long, and unbelievable.
Yeah.
The architecture and just seeing where the animals actually could live and survive on something this big. And then their living quarters. They even had their living quarters there where you could visualize how you could live there for a year on a boat.
Right.
Just unbelievable. If you haven't seen it, you got to see it. That's
All right.
all there is to it.
And we put in 5+ miles that day.
Right.
So if you're keeping score at home, our let's see, day number, actually, the Indy, we didn't do any serious mileage that
Wow.
day. We probably only did 3 or 4, but we did 5 at the Ark, and then the next day we went, and then we went to
Airport.
the museum. We did 5 miles that day, and then we drove from Illinois up into Chicago, and we got introduced. We drove from Indiana to Chicago, and one of the first things we discovered was that they love charging tolls.
Oklahoma style.
They put Oklahoma to shame, I think, because we had stopped about 3 times to pay toll within probably a 5-mile stretch, and before we knew it, we were at least $12 or $13 lighter in our wallet because of that. But then we got a great view of downtown, and then we went to the Chicago White Sox Kansas City Royals game, and your reflections on that game.
It's a beautiful stadium, beautiful day, and it's a fantastic ball game. 1-0, 2-1, 3-2. Last play of the ball game, catcher drops the ball, visitors win. Fans go berserk.
Of course, they were visitors to us, but we were actually
Right.
visitors.
Yeah.
And so the locals went crazy.
Yeah.
And so what did you think about that sort of oddity at the stadium where every time the opposing pitcher, in this case Kansas City Royals, threw over to first base to get the runner back, what happened when the pitcher did that?
It was just harassment by the Chicago fans.
Everybody booed, right?
Everybody
Every time
booed.
the ball was thrown over.
Or any delay, if a batter stepped out of the batter's box and stuff. It just kind of a baseball background where people want to get on the pitcher if they can.
Yeah.
Figure
Yeah.
if we can get on the pitcher, we're gonna win the ball game.
Yeah. All right. So that was the visit to Chicago, and then that night we drove to Lake Geneva. And let me think out loud here. So when we got here, we got our place right along the lakefront here.
We got the
Let's
pizza.
see.
We got the pizza before we got the place.
Oh, that's right. We showed up at 7. They were closing the kitchen at 7:30, and so we got ourselves some nice Chicago pizza. And then yesterday, which was our last full day, we let's see. We went and took a look at the lake trail. And what any thoughts or memories on that little trail that goes all the way around the lake?
Well, that's a new invention that they come up with here to stimulate the sports fans, because there is a lot of people here walking, running, exercising, and enjoying the water and the home. So
Yeah.
this trail was something that opened it up to everybody.
Yeah.
No matter whether you walked or ran,
Yeah, or just a peeping Tom.
just a peeping Tom, right?
Because you're walking right through the yards of these
Right.
houses. Okay. And then of course, really the main thing on our agenda was the scenic lake tour. And so we did the full lake tour, 2 hours, did the entire 21 miles of coastline. It wasn't your first time. How many times do you think you'd been on that tour, Dad?
Oh, probably 7 or 8.
7. So why did you want to do it again?
Well, I wanted to get the boat one because the boat is so exciting.
Okay, you
Goes
mean the
in-
mail boat.
The mail boat, right.
And you got to tell people what
Right.
that's
The
about.
mail boat. When we go into the pier, he jumps off the front of the boat, puts the mail in the box, and jumps on the back of the boat. Well, sometimes the boat's gone and he's still on the pier if he don't get there fast enough, if he got a lot of mail. Also, at times, a dog will come down and he'll put the dog to work. I give him a newspaper, the dog will run back up to the house. This is interesting. I mean, getting near the dock, dropping the mail, getting back on the boat is just suspense. But that
So-
doesn't start for another month.
Yeah,
so-
yeah, it starts June 15th. So here we are in the middle of May, and it's amazing because we're in this beautiful place and the crowds haven't come quite yet. School is still in session in Wisconsin and Illinois. So I felt like we had the run of the place. So any other, okay, so that was yesterday. And then we found Culver's last night and enjoyed some Culver's, and then over there by the Riviera, we enjoyed our custard, and you didn't leave a single drop of custard in the cup, Dad. I was watching you. You liked it, right?
Oh man, awesome! Just sitting out in the fresh air and enjoying the view, and the people walk by. There's just tons of people from every state in the union here.
Yep.
This is a centerpiece. Oh, we met a couple in a swimming pool. They've been married 34 years, and we chatted with them quite a while. And we told them I've been married 64, and they said, "Wow, you know, it's."
And they ask you the secret to 64 years of
Right.
marriage, right?
Well, just the wife does her thing and the husband does hers. They don't need to argue, man. Just get together and have fun and enjoy life.
Yep. All right. Now, last thing I want to talk about is just as one thing I left out of my description is we did take some time yesterday in the morning, and we found the home. You remember the addresses right off the top of your head.
1025 Williams and 1010 Center Street.
Okay. So with an address like 1025 and 1010, it sounds like they're pretty close together. How close together?
Background to background, and in between was about 200 feet. Used to be a field where we run back and forth. Now,
Okay.
of course, it's backyards to houses, but it's still there.
So we found both your grandparents on your dad's side and your grandparents on your mom's side, both those houses, and then an uncle, right? An uncle
Right,
and aunt.
and all houses are still standing.
They're all still there. So what, as we walked around the block and we talked about it, what kind of memories did that stir up in your thinking? What came back to you? And you need to explain that you moved away from here at age 5, but you would come back. Tell that story.
Well, yeah, this is our home, and we'd come back for Christmases and usually summer vacations. And as we grew up, me and my sister, 8 and 10 years old, Mom would put us on American Airlines plane in Tulsa and ship us to Chicago, and our aunt would pick us up, and the aunt was in Chicago, and then we got an uncle in Burlington and an uncle in Milwaukee, and so we just traveled all around for a month or two up here with our grandparents, enjoying life and living out here in a resort town, which is different, and just fresh air and a lot of water.
A lot of water.
Growing up was fantastic.
And then we did find the cemetery, Oak Hill Cemetery. We did
Right.
find the headstone. Did we find both grandparents' headstones?
No, just one grandparent.
Okay, the Simmons.
And no, Johnson, Frank Johnson, and Ima Johnson.
Right.
And then we found his daughter, Ella Gardner, and her husband were buried right next to him.
And Ella was the lady in Chicago that would
Right.
pick you and
She
Shirley
was
up.
the one that worked for Admiral, and she's the one that picked us up in Chicago and come out on the weekend to visit her dad.
Right.
So
Yep.
we had a lot of fun. We stayed in Chicago a bunch, going to amusement parks and everything. Ella just didn't have kids, and so, man, we were the king on the crop. Wherever we wanted to go, there we went. Lake Geneva, Burlington, you name it. Ball games, racetrack, you name it.
Yep.
We had a ball.
Yep.
And then here in Lake Geneva, didn't have TV, one TV, I think, in the whole town. And it was on the street corner in a TV shop, and I always had the Cubs game on at night, so people would gather around and watch the Cubs.
Through the window of the closed store.
Right.
TV's in the window, like
Right.
the classic movie
Right.
scene where people are standing there watching.
Round screen, no hexagon or square like we got nowadays.
Tube, original tube.
Just about so big. And then Grandpa would take me down to the ball game. We had softball games every night. Grandpa would go down there.
Yeah.
One night we saw a greased pig contest. A little baby pig, they greased the thing up and put boards around part of the ball field so the pig can't get away. But then they bring little kids, 7, 8, 9 years old out, and tell them, if you get the pig, you get to take him home. So everybody's chasing the pig, slipping and sliding. One kid gets smart, goes to home plate, grabs 2 handfuls of dirt, slaps it on the pig, and he's the winner. Got smart.
He must have played baseball. Learned how to put that dirt on the bat.
It
Well,
was
very
awesome.
good. Well, Dad, it has been a lot of fun. You know what? I'll just share a couple quick thoughts. This is about you, not about me. But we talked to a lot of people just for the fun of it, and your youthful enthusiasm, your love for laughter, your love for humor, I'm just reminded of that you are loving the gift of life that God's given you, and it's been a lot of fun to hear you laugh and to and as you've always done, just meet perfect strangers and treat them as if they're your best friends. That happened on the boat. That happened at the ball game. That happened just about every day. and so that was a real joy to watch. The other fun thing was that wonderful hat you got on there. There were a number of people who took the time to thank you for your service, and you know, that I just appreciate that. That's a real. I know you were blessed by it. I could tell by the way you reacted, and I'm real grateful for people who want to say thank you.
Yeah.
And so
Appreciate our country.
yeah. And the other one last thought, and then we'll wrap it up here. Your enthusiasm expressed itself a lot of ways, but one is just with our activities, and I took it for granted after 2 full days of 5+ miles a day. On the way to that baseball game, your low fuel light was flashing because you were walking very slow, and matter of fact, you were about to look like you were going to come to a halt. So I was grateful you allowed some folks to help us and got us up to our seats and made it for a great
Got a
day.
wheelchair.
Yeah, so that was good.
And then afterwards, the guy took us all the way to the parking lot, about half a mile from our seats over to where his limit was. He couldn't go any further. He said, "This is the limit." So that was a blessing, because a little extra walking could have done in the ship.
All right, Dad. Great job. Enjoyed the vacation. We need to plan another one.
Oh yeah,
And,
it's a blessing. Thank you, thank you,
yeah.
thank you, thank you.
I love you. All right, Dad. Let's see if it. Yeah.